everyone, my name is Andrew Hess, and I'm just back from the Microsoft 365 conference. So I have so many things to talk about, but I want to talk about the one thing that kept popping into my mind the most, that kept coming up, it was repeating. And so there were people who were saying, you must do this way, or you're low code, or you're pro code, or pro code is better because of this, or low code is better for this. And in my opinion is, first off, what you need to do for every project is gather requirements. Every project, gather requirements first. Don't decide which tool you're going to use. When you gather requirements, use the right tool for the job. There are reasons to do low code. There are reasons to do pro code. There are reasons to do Microsoft Azure Open API. There's reasons to do Copilot or Copilot Studio. Once you gather requirements, as you learn these tools, you decide, oh, all of my dropdowns should be SharePoint lists, or all of the dropdowns should actually be combo boxes. And it goes back into one of my first videos, and the quote was, be stubborn with your vision, but flexible on the details. You know, the vision, the outcome, be stubborn on it. You know what you want at the end. This is what you want at the end. But the details, be flexible. Why only do no code? Why only do JavaScript? Why only do React? Why only do SharePoint framework? So I'm going to throw another quote at you. Determine the things that can be done, that shall be done, and then we shall find the way. Okay, so if you're new here, we've been working on a Power App. This is probably part 4 now, so this is part 4. So just because what you see in this video does not mean this is what we're going to do, right? We're flexible with our details, but we're going to keep designing this Power App until we have a complete vision. So this is our custom form. It uses Patch, previous videos, and then we have 2 other custom forms that actually feed our dropdowns here. So we actually have our dropdowns that are based off SharePoint lists. So let's get into it. All right, so what I want to do today is I think I want to talk about using containers and how containers can be helpful and why they sometimes drive you crazy and you know, all the little tricks with containers. I think as soon as we get more data in here, we can start talking about delegation. That's a future video. But maybe today, let's put some containers in here. Let's make this look better. Right now, I just kind of think it's kind of, you know, there's some fields thrown on here. Let's make our form, our custom form, look better. So I'm going to insert a container. And you can choose horizontal, vertical container. Pay attention to the way these icons are, right? So vertical container, it's horizontal rows like an Excel table, a vertical container. Horizontal container is across to the right. You know, if this is your columns, so horizontal container is your columns, vertical container is your rows. And a container is just an object to throw things in and keep them together. So a lot of times people use containers for pop-ups. Maybe that's something we can work on too, is we can make a container for a pop-up. Instead of grouping things and using the Control-G to group, we can actually use containers. Now, like I was saying earlier, there's 1,000 different ways to do Power Apps. What I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a container, but I'm going to do 2 containers, and this is to make it responsive in the future. I'm going to do a horizontal container. Inside my horizontal container, so we'll rename it. This one, container 1, is horizontal container. Inside my horizontal container, I'm going to put a vertical container. Now, why do I do both? The reason I do both is so if we make this responsive, the horizontal can resize itself and the vertical can resize itself. So that's why I do both. And now inside this container, in my rows container, I'm going to take everything. I'm going to take everything that we have here, except for the buttons. I don't want the buttons. I'm going to take everything that we have here, except for these 3 buttons. I'm going to cut it, Control X, and then I'm going to put it in container 2, which I'm going to rename vertical container. So I'm going to rename this vertical container. All right, so we have our rows in here. We could center this if we want, right? So we can do the vertical align, horizontal align. We can decide how we want to do that. All right, so I'm going to try and break this down and go slower. So we have one vertical container, right? So this is actually our vertical column 1 container. So this is actually a column container. I'm actually going to create another vertical column container inside my horizontal container. So in here, I'm going to create a vertical container. Now this is my column 2, so vertical column 2 container. All right, so now you see how it's broken up? It's just like how we had before. We have our column 1 on the left side, and now we have our column 2 on the right side. So let's take some of these here. So the status and maybe the date and due date. I'm going to Control X. I'm going to put them in my vertical container 2. And then I'm going to center it just like before. So center and this center and this center. So now we have things centered off. All right, so now that we have our 2 column vertical containers, if we look at the left side, actually, I want it to say observation, and on the right, I want it to say the text field. So inside a vertical column container here, I'm going to create 2 more containers. I know this gets crazy, but keep up with me. So now we're going to do another vertical container. So here, container 6, we're going to insert another vertical container. Oh, we did it wrong. So notice how it went inside there. We don't want that. We want it inside our vertical container here. Now, I'm not going to remove my error, but I want you to see how I can fix it. So you see how my containers are lining up on the sides here, or in the vertical container in rows? I'm actually going to take this container, and on the right side, I'm going to convert it to horizontal. And I know it's going to look a mess at first, but we're going to take everything in here, everything in this vertical container. I'm going to move it in container 6 so we can get a view. So I'm Control X. I'm going to move it in that container. So that's getting to more what I like. So we have our observation, and we have our single line item. Now I'm going to rename this one. Rename horizontal column container. All right. So now we want to make sure that this spreads and stretches the entire container. So for here, on the right side, you see over here the vertical stretch. Make sure to stretch it out completely. All right, so now we have observation. Then we have our text observation. I'm going to push it in container, this column right here. So if we take a look at it, we have our observation here, our text, and then here we have our input. So action items, we want our text. I'm going to push it over here. Okay, so things are still not fitting right. Just don't worry about it. We can see that down here is our text field. Let's just keep cutting and pasting. So find items. I'm going to paste it over here on the right side. Find items, paste it on the right side. Same one here, paste it on the right side. All right, so it looks like we have only our labels. 1, text observation, action items, text action items, customer name, combo customer name, location, combo location, category, and categories down here on the bottom. So let's try and line these up so they fit together correctly. So it looks like it's off, and I'm not going to kind of edit out my mistakes. This is how I can tell. Look at container 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Container 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's remove text status and push it over here. Now everything is lined up correctly. Look at our containers. Now I want to center. Oh, not that center. I want to center on the horizontal amount. So I'm going to center there, or I could even push it to the far right side on the end. You see the end there? So I can push it over there. So left column container 1, left column container 2. So if you see fill portions, right here above my head, fill portions, it's 1 of 2. If I were to add one more container or anything, if I added a button, you would see that this container or the button canvas, once flexible width is on, becomes fill portions 1 of 3, right? Because there's 3 columns now in this container. Maybe you like the giant button. Maybe you don't want the button to, take up the entire space. There's ways you can, fit that if you want to. So you can have the button there. So now on the left side, it's fill portions 1 of 2. I'm going to increase this, the right side container actually, to 4. Maybe even 3. Now, this is where some people get confused. You notice when I increase it to 8, it does nothing. 9, 10. The reason it's not doing anything is because of the minimum width here. This minimum width is stopping you from adjusting the size. But if we lower this to, let's say, 100, it gives us more room. Look at that, 150. And now we can adjust our fill portions correctly. So maybe we like 5 of 15. Maybe actually we need to adjust this one. This one's 5, and this one is 1. So I'm actually going to justify so they all line up perfectly. But then what I can do is I can take my giant container, my large container, and I can resize it here. Notice how everything resizes together. Isn't that neat? Everything is resizing together. We don't have to move things around. Everything's being resized together. Now, when you look at these containers, another thing that drove me crazy forever was, you notice how you see the lines in the containers, the lines? That drove me crazy. I don't want there to be lines in between my containers. So what you do is actually my head's in the way. So if we move me, right here is called drop shadow. You see that drop shadow light? Let's change that to none on each one. All of my containers, the drop shadow is none. And you see how we're slowly getting rid of those lines. So I'm going to do it on all my containers. Drop shadow, none. Drop shadow, none. Now look at there. Now you, as the user, don't see the containers because those drop shadows are removed. Maybe on the large one, we could have a drop shadow as bold. Maybe we like that. You see how it pops out? It makes it pop out. I love that look. So on the large container, I did a drop shadow of bold. I'm gonna click on my giant container here that has the padding. And right here on the right side, I'm gonna adjust the left side padding to 15 to pull it off that edge. I'm gonna do the same on the top. I'm gonna pull it down a little bit. On the bottom, 15. And on the right, I'm gonna pull it 15. That way it kind of centers in my one large container. So now it's starting to look a little bit better, in my opinion, with the look of the container. Now in the container, we have our line items. Let's see if everything's still working. We can still come in here, click on our drop downs. We can still click on our drop downs. I'm going to maybe, instead of, I'm going to try and center. Let's see if we'll center it. We'll center it, but we want a gap. So you see how all of my text fields, they have no space in between them. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the gap to maybe 15. Give them a little bit more space. Maybe we'll go 25. You see how that gap between each of them kind of increased. So let's do the same thing on the left side. So I'm going to center it. Center all of them, actually justify vertical center. And then I'm going to create a gap of 25. So now everything's lining up. It's looking more beautiful. To me, it's looking more beautiful. We're working on that UI UX. All right, so we have our fields in there. You kind of see how we went through the containers. Now I'm going to do the right side. So we have the red, yellow, green stoplight, and we have a status field. So let's see if you can keep up with me on this one. We're going to create, it kind of depends. Do we want to create 5 columns, one for the name, or one for the name, and then for each of the stoplights? It kind of depends. How do we want to do this? So I'm going to start off with one, actually it's a horizontal container. So let me minimize all these other ones. We're here on this vertical container on the right side. We're going to insert a vertical container, and we're going to insert another vertical container, at least two. Now I wanted to change this one, so this is good to keep up. I'm going to change my vertical column container to I'm going to change this one to horizontal. So I'm going to rename it. And then on the right side, I change the direction to horizontal. And I'm going to take all my buttons, everything, and put it in my container 9, which I just pasted in there, my vertical container. All right, so everything's in there. Now I'm going to start moving my buttons. So we did this in the last video. Each of these green lights are actually buttons. So I'm going to paste these in there. My green, yellow, red are buttons. Okay, so yes, look what happens when we press on it. When we press on the button, we get our different colors. So I want to rearrange these fields. Now, once you have tons and tons and tons of fields in there, let's say over 100, what gets super annoying, and this is one of the biggest tricks, is to click on the 3 dots and click reorder and click move up. There's a trick, there's a shortcut. Hold down Control, and then you have your square brackets. Square bracket, square bracket. So up and down. Hold down Control, use your square brackets, and you see how it moves up in there? It's the biggest thing, biggest help ever. Trust me, you want to do that. All right, so now we have our due dates and our status fields. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to pull over due date to the left side. I feel like when we fill out the form, we should be filling out the left side. On the right side, we can do our statuses. So due date, the text, I'm going to push it over here. And the select date, I'm going to push it over here. So now we have all of our fields over here on the right side. And the status, we're going to set it up on the, I said that wrong. The due date's on the left side. The status now we're going to do on the right side. I'm going to center it here. I'm going to give it a gap of a lot more, maybe 100. Maybe way too much, 50. Kind of put that gap in there. We'll go 20. I want the status and all of my columns to actually look a little bit different when it's the field than when it's the warning. So for the text warning, I'm going to change the style and theme. I'm going to change the font to maybe something a little different. Lato black, and we'll increase the font size. And we want to give it more space. And then I want to align it in the center. Okay. This one I'm going to do the same. Align to container. Align center. So warning. Now I'm going to center my stoplights here. So I'm going to center them. Both align center. I'm going to give it a gap. Right? My buttons need a gap in there. Maybe 10. There we go. So now I've given them a gap. Now, how did we get rid of those? You see the lines there? Maybe if I zoom in, you'll see those lines. I want to get rid of those lines. Change the drop shadow. So my head's in the way. My head's in the way. I'm not moving this time, but drop shadow, none. This one, drop shadow, none. All right, so now we don't see those lines anymore. So I really like how this is starting to look. 2, 1. Maybe I like it just like that. I know containers can drive you crazy, but to me, it's already looking better. And we can just click, you know, clear, caution, warning. To me, this is really starting, like people are going to be impressed when they get your form. So now, okay, we have our container. Now let's do a pop out. Are you sure you want to insert that data, right? So, are you sure this was okay? Action items, do a pop out. All right, so on our save button, what did we do? On our save button in a previous video, we did a patch statement. And we did our patch statement on if then. We're gonna change our button. So this container, this giant container that we have here, right here, I'm going to make it not visible right now. And this is just temporarily. I'm going to change the visibility to false. No longer do we see that container because I'm going to make a pop out. So we're going to insert a new container, just a regular container this time, just so we can see how that works. And we're going to do a pop out. And it'll say, with a text, so insert a text input. Are you sure you wish to input this data? Now there's tons of ways to do this, right? With a regular container, we get a lot more control, a lot more flexibility. So we can kind of just manipulate things how we want. With the text, I'm going to center it. So the alignment, I'm going to put it in the center. So I'm in the way again. Let's see. The alignment down here, I'm going to put in the center. Now there's different ways to visualize your data. We're going to change the color of the pop out, maybe to a light blue or maybe a light gray. Light gray for now until we figure that out. Are you sure you wish to insert this data? And now we need our data. So insert all labels. Everything is going to be a label. So not a text label. It's just called text in Modern. So text, we're going to insert, there's a good bit. I'm going to copy and just paste it a bunch, okay? Oh, it's starting to rain outside. Beautiful. All right, so this value is going to be our text observation. If I can spell it right, observation dot value. So this was what we put in there before. This is what we put in our text. I'm just going to move over to the right, copy, paste. This is our observation. All right. So now I'm just going to copy, paste the next one. Let's take a look at what we had in there before. In our horizontal container, we have action items. So this is text action items dot value. Okay, give it a little bit more space, maybe matching. Action items. I'm going slow on purpose. I know I could fast forward through this, but people said they want to see me do this nice and slow. So next we have combo customer name. So customer name. Make sure we have enough space in here. So give ourselves some space. And so this one is CMB customer name dot selected dot full name. All right, move this one over, copy, paste. Ooh, the rain is getting pretty loud. All right, so next, let's see, we have location. And that's going to be combo box. Location dot selected dot I believe that's title. Title, then we have a couple more. We have category. And I believe this is just a text field, or is this a drop-down? Drop category dot selected dot value. So drop-downs are a little bit different. And finally, we have status. And that's text status dot text. So I think I'm gonna see, do we like the way it looks? I think it looks okay right now. I'm gonna round the corners of the pop out. Maybe we'll increase the border radius to kind of increase it maybe a little bit more. I want the drop shadow to be bold again, so it kind of gives us that 3D look. And now I'm just going to do a save button. We're going to take this save button. I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to put it in my container. So in my container 13, we will put that button. Now that button, all it does is save. So then I'm going to create a new save button. So I'll copy, paste, and this save button, we're going to change this one to submit. Or no, we'll change this one to submit. The text value to submit. And this button is actually going to do a variable. So we're going to turn the variable on and off based on, if we want to see or not. So we'll say on select, instead of all this, instead of all the save, we're just going to update context, variable pop out, and then I'll just turn the variable on and off, variable pop out. So that exclamation mark, it just turns the variable on and off. So I'm going to copy that equation there. I'm not sure if we can do this, but we're going to copy this save button also. And this is going to be our cancel. So this will be cancel. And it's going to literally do the same thing as the other submit button. It's going to do the variable and turn it on and off. So update context, variable pop out, and it's going to turn variable pop out off. Now for our other container, the one that contains our form, so that's our horizontal container, the whole thing. Let's make it the same size. It's the same size. And now the visible property will be the variable pop out. When it's true, or actually we'll do that one when it's true. And this one, this container will be not variable pop out. And maybe I have that backwards. Let's actually switch that up. So this one is variable pop out, and this one is not variable pop out. So on the blank screen, we will see that. And we're going to round the corners on this one too. So we'll round the corners to about 20. I like the rounded quarters, maybe a little bit more, 50. There we go. So we have our nice form. We have lots of containers in here. We can submit. So this is just going to switch between our pop outs and whatnot. I probably want to fix this coloring right here. Just, and then maybe we'll bold it. So style and theme, we will bold it, semi-bold, and maybe change the font a little bit. But pretty much that's our pop out from our form. So we have our form, our nice form. Then it switches to, are you sure you wish to update? Now there's other options we can do. We could change the background to have different colors to kind of make your eyes focus on the pop out. But I'm not going to do that for today. I'm just giving you ideas. So these are your ideas. I showed you how to do containers, how to do pop outs. Now we just hit save and it brings us right on back to our form. Are you sure you're okay with this? This is our new line item. We need to make sure every time we come to this form that actually we set that variable to false. So on screen 2, on the OnVisible property, I will update context, the variable pop out. And we need a semicolon here so it gets the IntelliSense. Variable pop out is false. So every time we come to the screen, no matter what, the pop out is going to be false. We're going to see our form. Now we could, if you saw that little blip there, so look when we submit, and you click back, and you come in here, you saw it do that little blip. Maybe, actually check this out. Let me throw you one more little tidbit. So on this inspection form, on the navigate, actually you can do a third comma, and you see how it brings up those context variables? We can change the context variables here, and this is just like passing the variable to that screen. So actually now, let's say we go in here and we submit and we have our pop-up up. Let's watch when we go back. Boom, you don't see that flash. So actually that variable is getting passed before the OnVisible property. So actually one little thing that you can do if you want is to add that context variable into your navigation into your navigation command. So I hope this was helpful. My name's Andrew Hess. I'm a Power Platform developer. I've been doing this for years. Power Platform about 6 years, but I've been full stack developer for a long time. I hope this was helpful. Please leave me some comments. Where do you want me to go next? My next ideas are to fix delegation, to work on filtering. That's kind of where I'm at right now, is maybe we'll work on filtering. And once we have a lot of data in there, maybe over 2,000, we can work on the delegation. So thank you all for watching. If this is still helpful, leave me a comment. I should have some more videos coming out, and I really want to get into AI. I want to get into Copilot, Open Azure AI, but let's finish off this app first. So thank you all for watching. My name is Andrew Hess. I'll see you next time.